بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على رسول رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. صلوات. So, into the sixth night of our discussions that we've commenced from the first night. And last night, when we had reached the point where we had the disruption in terms of the outage, we had been speaking about you're taking us on a journey from how the Quran from Lawh Mahfuz eventually ended up in our hands between the two covers. And you will see as we go forward, so many details will come out of a lot of things that we don't know, or if we know them on a very cursory, a very superficial basis. And hopefully by the time we complete our discussions, our understanding, yours and mine, with regards to how this Quran came into our hands has increased exponentially, and we have increased ourselves in our ma'rifat towards a lot of things that we will hear. The first thing that we were discussing was that from that Lawh Mahfuz, if it has to be brought down, and this is entire a sequence, step by step, how it comes down, where it comes down, on whom it comes down, in what manner it comes down, when it comes down, how it is received. Once it is received, what are the specifics of that reception? It's a world in itself. It's an ocean by itself, and we'll try to see how many drops of this ocean that we can pick out in these few days that we've got. So initially we were talking about that Lawh Mahfuz, the Quran that is there, is now to be brought down and communicated to man. And how does this take place? So we indicated that when God communicates with man, there are three ways in which he communicates with man. One is by means of wahi, revelation. He sends an angel to the prophet or to his prophet so that they can get his opinion, they get his communication. Second is by way of dreams, and third is by way of ilham. All of these we will explain right now. We're in the first part of the revelation by means of Hadrat Jibreel alayhi salam. And last night we were saying that Hadrat Jibreel, when he would come down normally he would come down in his own form. Most of the times nobody would see him, but whenever they would see him, at times not only for the Quran, and you have to understand, Hadrat Jibreel, when he came down to speak to the Prophet, it was not always for the Quran. That means don't be under the impression every time Jibreel came down alayhi salam it was for Quran. There were numerous things that Allah would communicate to the Prophet that is not Quran. And the prime example is that all communications that were supposed to be official, see, there are certain communications from God to the Prophet that are unofficial, that need not, that ought not to have gone to the people, because this is to mahram. Others other than the Prophet Jibreel alayhi salam and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, other than these people, sallu ala Muhammad. Other than these three people, others, and obviously when we talk about the Prophet, we're talking about the family of the Prophet, are all na mahram. Certain unofficial communications, people are not supposed to know what has been spoken. There have been numerous things that the Prophet has been informed by the Prophet, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has not been made open. Then there are certain things that have been made open It has come to us that Allah has sent Jibreel alayhi salam for this. At times you'll hear me say Jabra'il, at times you'll hear me say Jibreel, because these are the two ways the word has been pronounced. It's not Jibra'il, that's a wrong word. It's either Jibreel or it's Jabra'il with a fatha. Anyway, so for example, the official communications, some of them are classified as Quran that you see in the book, which is picked up from Lawh Mahfuz and given down by Hadrat Jibreel alayhi salam to the Holy Prophet. At times, the communication has come from God to the Holy Prophet, but it is not Quran. That becomes what we consider and call as Hadith Qudsi. So revelations from Allah to the Prophet by Jibreel, which are not into Quran, becomes Hadith Qudsi. Who decides what goes into Hadith Qudsi and what goes into Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's the difference between the two? The difference between the two is in Hadith Qudsi, whatever is sent by God, the Prophet is permitted to speak out of his own meanings. So God says, say for example, somebody's name is Salim. Salim came. This is Hadith Qudsi. Here, the Prophet has authority and prerogative to say Salim came or Salim arrived. He can use his own words. He can paraphrase it. He can put his own meanings. But in Quran, he doesn't have any say. Whatever comes from God, he has to say. For example, Qul huwallahu ahad. When he said Qul huwallahu ahad, how does it start? Qul, say. Qul, say. Allahu ahad. If I were to tell you, Qul, say, get me a glass of water, you're not going to tell the other person, say, get a glass of water. You'll say, get a glass of water. But Quran, it is said, Qul huwallahu ahad. Qul means say, O Prophet. Now, he doesn't have the authority to remove the Qul and say, Allahu samad, or Allahu ahad. He has to say, Qul huwallahu ahad, because that is what Quran, Allah has revealed. He says, in the Quran, whatever I say, you have to say it. You cannot paraphrase it. You cannot put the meaning of it. So, Qul also has to be mentioned. You get the meaning? Because that's an entirely different level, Quran. It's a miracle, it's a mu'jiza, it is par excellence, and cannot be compared. So that's the difference between the two. Now, when Hadrat Jibreel brings around the revelation, because there's so many things that are going on, I have to just piecemeal it so that I can present it in a good sequence so that you understand it. When Hadrat Jibreel brings around the revelations to the Prophet or to any Prophet, based on the rank of the Prophet, this communication moves around. That means it is not the same for every individual from amongst the Anbiya. It is not one size fits all. It depends upon the rank of the Nabi. And primarily this is explained, there's probably just one tradition in Al-Kafi. That is in volume number 1, page number 245. And this has been very well explained by Allama Majlisi in his tafsir or his sharh or his exegesis of Usul al-Kafi by the name of Mir'atul Uqul. Mir'atul Uqul fi akhbar al-Rasul. Fi sharh akhbar al-Rasul. The whole book's name is that. But in short, people just mention Mir'atul Uqul. Mir'atul Uqul is the sharh of Allama Majlisi of Usul al-Kafi. In that, there's one tradition in which Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, in which Imam Sadiq alayhi salam explains the various kinds and classification of Anbiya. And he starts off like this: Al-Anbiya wal-Mursalun ala arba'at tabaqat. That the Anbiya and the Mursalun, the Nabi, the prophets, are of 4 categories. Then he gives the 4 categories. He says the first category is of a Nabi. And this becomes very important because understand, all Nabi cannot see Jibreel. All Nabi cannot have the communication that the Holy Prophet had. And so the 4th, 6th time I was narrating. He says the Anbiya and the Mursaleen are of 4 categories. The very basic ones. The basic Nabi is somebody who's just one person sent for himself. Nabiyan li nafsihi. He is only to guiding his own self. God then guides him how he wants to guide him by his own self. But he is Nabi only for his own self. And Allama Majlisi, when he's explaining, it says, it appears that this Nabi will not see, will not hear, will have nothing to do with Jibreel. He cannot see, he cannot hear. This is the lowest level of Nabi. The next, before I go further, you have to understand, even the lowest level of Nabi is a ma'soom. A lowest Nabi level of Nabi is a Hujjat of God, is a representative of God, is much more superior to any of us. But this is in the eyes of God, He's graded them. For us, we have to respect all of them. All of them are wajibut ta'a. It's wajib to obey them. Then Imam Sadiq says the second level of Nabi is a Nabi who in his dreams, when he's sleeping, sees Jibreel. When he's awake, he hears Jibreel, but he cannot see Jibreel. And he's sent only to himself. But while he's sent to himself, he's following the shariat of a superior prophet. The first one did not have any prophet. You alone, I will guide you however I want to guide you. You've got nothing to do with Jibreel. You've got nothing to do with any other shariat. I will tell you what you need to follow. In the second one, he sees Jibreel in his dreams. So Allah then guides him through Jibreel in his dreams. But he's not reached that level that in his wakefulness, which in Arabic is referred to as yaqda, he's able to see Jibreel. He can hear Jibreel when he's awake, but he cannot see Jibreel. So this second person, the second level of Nabi, is a person who sees Jibreel in his dreams, cannot see Jibreel when he's awake. He hears only Jibreel when he's awake, and he's not sent to any prophet, but he has to follow the rule. He's not sent to any community, but he has to follow the rulings of another prophet. There is another shariat that is existing in the world of a superior prophet, and he has to follow that shariat. That's point number 2. The third level of Nabi, we're climbing and escalating higher in the hierarchical ladder. The third level of Nabi, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says in Usul al-Kafi, volume 1, page 245, is that the third level of Nabi is a person who sees Jibreel in his dream. 1. He sees Jibreel when he's awake. 2. He hears Jibreel when he's awake. 3. He is sent to other communities to guide them. 4. But he's still under the shariat of somebody else. He's still not independent. So that's the third category of Nabi. And the fourth category of Nabi is the top level, the Ulul Azm. At the top of it is the Holy Prophet. He can see Jibreel in his dreams. He can see Jibreel while he's awake. He can speak to Jibreel and listen to Jibreel. He is sent to a community, at times universal community. And then he's got his own shariat, which we refer to as Ulul Azm. Now, depending upon these, whoever that Nabi is, it depends whether he sees Jibreel or he doesn't see Jibreel. Now, having understood that, we need to move forward and understand that many times when we mention the communication that takes place between Allah and His Prophet is revelation by means of Jibreel. But there are times, specifically with respect to the Holy Prophet, that when things are very sensitive, he says, Jibreel, move out. I don't want you intervening in it. I don't want your involvement. I will myself pass my communications to the Prophet. In this case, Allah communicates directly to the Holy Prophet. Now, where lies the difference? How does it happen? And what is the difference between Allah sending His kalam through Jibreel and Allah sending His kalam by Himself, inshallah, tomorrow night? You will see the difference that take place with the Holy Prophet when he sees, when this revelation comes directly from Jibreel, from Allah, or through Jibreel. So when Jibreel is basically giving, he's told, pick it up, take it, and pass it on. That is one way. At times he says, Jibreel, out. I will speak myself to my Habib. And he puts it directly into his heart. The reality that takes place outside when people are watching is entirely different, which we'll discuss tomorrow. But as of now, we're just going slowly. We're putting up skeletons and then putting pieces and pieces till you get a whole figure, inshallah. So this is how it takes place. At times, the wahi comes through Jibreel, at times directly, but from God to the Holy Prophet. The second way that Allah communicates with his prophets is by means of dreams. Now this everybody knows. Yeah, we're coming 3 months left for Zul-Hijjah. And this is what happens at the time of Hadrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he sees in his dreams that he's slaughtering his son Ismail alayhi salam. And that entire incident that we discussed when we were talking about Imam Hussain al-Islam and Dhibh Azim, you remember that majlis? The Dhibh Azim and Abdul Muttalib and all those things, if you remember, you remember. So how does it hard upon? So you have Hazrat Ibrahim coming to Ismail and saying, Ya bunay qala, ya bunay, Quran says qal. He says, Ya bunayya inni ara fil manam inni adbahuk. I see in my dreams that I'm slaughtering you. Fanzur madha tara. See how you want to react to it. You want to comply with the order. You don't want to comply with the order. I've seen this. This is a communication from God. But this portion doesn't make us clear whether it's a communication. This is what Ibrahim is telling Ismail. Ya bunayya, oh my son, inni ara fil manam, I'm seeing in my dreams, anni adbahuka, I'm slaughtering you. Fandur madha tara. See what you feel about it. What is your opinion about it? The fact that this is a communication from God is not understood from the words of Ibrahim, but from the answer of Ismail. Ismail turns to his father and says, Ya abati, O my father, if al ma tu'mar, do whatever you have been ordered to. The fact that Ismail is telling, the word is tu'mar, what you've been ordered to, gives an understanding that Ismail, Nabi of God in future, after Ibrahim, understood that this is a communication from God to his prophet and it has to be followed. And hence it is an order, it's a command. And Ismail says, Ya abata, Ya abati, O my father, if al ma tu'mar, act on what you have been ordered. Not ma tuqal, what you've been told. No, ma tu'mar, what you've been ordered. Satajiduni inshallah min as-sabirin. You will find me from the sabirin. So dreams are a source of communication between Allah and his prophets. But this is where there's a difference, yeah? And this is where we have a major problem in our community that we need to address. Somewhere down the line, we have come to associate a lot of issues with regards to the dreams, in terms of the fact that we take it as hujjat for ahkam shar'iyya. That if you see in your dream something, then this is what becomes wajib on us. And you see this so many times, specifically in old people, and then slowly it's percolated even to middle-aged people, which becomes a little bit of a thing as to how it can be, a certain level in the olden days we can understand. But now, you see, dreams, that if you go into the science of dreams, not interpretation, science of how dreams come, the science tells us dreams are basically, and again under the religious sphere, is basically of two types. Yeah, one of them is something that we find ourselves attached to intensely, either in the past or are attaching to in the future, and those things, when we sleep, subconsciously get played out into our minds. So you will find that, for example, if there's a World Cup match in which England is playing, or a FA Cup match in which a certain team is playing, and you're following the team, especially young kids and all, they're like, oh, Man United, or Chelsea, or Liverpool, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know who you follow, but whatever it is. And they're waiting for the final, and before the final, because you fancy your team so much, you see yourself in a stadium and you see this goal being scored, and your team picking up the trophy. The match is still not being played, but because of that intensity of one's attachment to that, it gets replayed into the mind. The subconscious mind replays it in the form of dreams. At times it is in reverse. An issue has taken place. Say, for example, somebody's into a tournament and he just missed a goal, a very simple goal, and that is playing in his mind. How did I miss that goal? Or how did I miss that penalty? And he will see that thing is being played out in his mind, and in his mind, in his dreams, he scores the penalty. That thing that was there, that intense, is now replayed. This is one way that in humans, in normal, non-masoom, non-prophet individuals, this is played out. At times, Riwayat tells us, shaitan plays a role in our minds. Shaitan does tasarrufat. He interferes in our minds to show certain things that he wants to do. And this is one of the reasons we've got so many etiquettes for sleeping at night. So many etiquettes. We could probably speak for 45 minutes only on etiquettes of sleeping and what happens in the sleep. It is so long. How to sleep, how not to sleep. Everybody is aware of. Most of us is aware of it. But all these things that you sleep with wudu, you sleep with reciting Tasbih Fatima the Zahra, you recite Ayatul Kursi, you recite so-and-so, you recite so-and-so. All of them are not about getting thawab. A lot of them, for example, Ayatul Kursi. Again, I don't want to go into that wadi. That's another long wadi of Ayatul Kursi. Sometimes if I get a time in this entire series, I'll talk about Ayatul Kursi. If I have time, this has to be spoken about. Ayatul Kursi is just out of this world. But you recite Ayatul Kursi and go to sleep, for example. You recite Qul and go to sleep. And Allah sends angels to protect you from shaitan. Why? Because shaitan comes and interferes in the sleep and puts forward dreams. So we find a lot of people saying, oh, I saw in my dreams Hazrat Abbas coming. And specifically when it comes to Hazrat Abbas and the Masumin, we become very sensitive. Oh, Hazrat Abbas, hamara sapna mein aaya ki maine kita ki bhai jithe ladwa karo mara mate. You make laddus for me, Khojas, they make laddus. Or in India, Pakistan, we've got those kebabs and rotis. Now that this person has seen Hazrat Abbas in his dream, pati gayi baat nahi. Whatever happened, he'll sell his house but make that niyaz, even if he doesn't have the money. Baba, Riwayat tell, oh, Hazrat Abbas aaya. And the ulama tell us, look, first of all, shaitan doesn't take the form of a masoom or these holy entities. He's not allowed. Just as angels are not allowed to take the form of a pig or a dog, similarly, a shaitan cannot take the face of an imam or a masoom. But then whoever you see, how do you know that person is Hazrat Abbas? How do you know he is Imam Ali al-Islam? How do you know he is Imam Hussain? Imam Hussain is saying, for example, we've got this, your son is 5 years old, pierce his ears and put a ring inside. You make him wear that qada in his hand and in his legs. This person that you're seeing, you've not seen Hazrat Abbas. You've not seen Amirul Mu'mineen. You've not seen Imam Rada alayhi salam. Somebody comes into your dreams and says, I'm Hazrat Abbas. How do you verify? Just because somebody says, I'm Hazrat Abbas, he becomes Hazrat Abbas? Shaitan cannot take the shape of Hazrat Abbas, but that is if you've seen Hazrat Abbas and now you're seeing him, you see, oh, that is Hazrat Abbas, I've seen him. Now this is Hazrat Abbas, you can tally, okay, shaitan cannot take the shape. But any person that comes and somebody says behind, he's Hazrat Abbas or I'm Hazrat Abbas, that does not prove that this person is Hazrat Abbas. And that is why in our fiqh, the dreams are never hujjah. That means, hujjat means it cannot clarify whether something is wajib or haram or something or something. So we have to be very careful about these things. Those dreams that tell us to do something is not for us. Let's not exalt ourselves too much. That is for the Anbiya. For them, it is a command. For us, we are not of that level that they would come and speak to us. Hazrat Abbas coming to me and telling me, make ladwas for me. What rank do I have that Hazrat Abbas could even come and think about talking to me? So we need to be very careful. We need to follow our religion with understanding, not kur Qur'an, not blind faith. Not just like a Pied Piper. There has to be an understanding after so many majalas, so many years in madrasas studying, and yet we come up with all these superstitious items. It's not fair, it's not right. So that is as far as the dreams are concerned. Third aspect, very quickly, I got another 5-6 minutes, is ilham, is inspiration. Now this ilham and inspiration is something that Allah doesn't put directly, but He uses His means, specifically the angels. Over here, in the first place, the intention is to guide the people. In inspiration, it is for this person's individual benefit. And I will tell you how it takes place. The prime example of inspiration that comes, inspiration means something comes into your mind. Many times it has so happened. You're worried what to do and suddenly something comes into your mind, you do it and it turns out right. Or kids go for the exams, you've got this multiple choice questions. Oh, is it B or is it C? A cannot be the one, D cannot be the one. It can be B or C. What should it be? I don't know. Suddenly it comes, it looks to be B. You put B, you get it right. How do you get it right? This inspiration. Where about? In Quran, Surah Taha. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ. We did wahi, we inspired to Musa, the mother of Musa, to do what? An ardi'ihim, feed him. This is an ajib ayat, and you might be thinking, Sheikh is repeatedly for everything he's saying this is ajib, but what do I do? This is Quran we're talking about. This one ayat has 2 orders, 2 prohibitions, and 2 prophecies in one ayah. 2 orders, 2 prohibitions, and 2 prophecies. We inspired Musa, the mother of Musa, an ardi'ihi, feed him, one order. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ, and when you fear for him, فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ, put him into the river. Put him into the river. Then what will happen? إِنَّا رَادُّ, so order, put him into some. وَلَا تَخَافِي, do not fear. وَلَا تَحْزَنِي, do not grieve. So two forbidden. Two orders: feed him, put him into the water. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Do not fear for him, because we are telling you to do it. وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Do not grieve. Why? فَإِنَّا رَادُّهُ إِلَيْكِ. We will return him back to you. وَجَاعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. So one prophecy, we will return him to you. And second, وَرَادُّهُ وَجَاعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. We will make him from the prophets. Both thinkings. Yeah. So this ilham came into mind. So let me give you a brief understanding of how this took place very quickly. Yeah. Hadrat Musa was a time when those astrologers and fortune tellers had told Fir'aun that a child will be born in Bani Israel who is going to topple you. So he gives a ruling: any child that is born, any male child, needs to be killed. So they would go on 70,000 kids he killed. Just for one child to be killed, he killed 70,000. This is exactly what is happening today. This is exactly what is happening today. You and I are taking so much ta'assuf. Imagine what's going through the hearts of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. He's the father of the ummah. He's the father of the ummah. We are not related. We are only coming by sentiments of humanity. Talk to a father when the son gets killed. He's the father of the ummah. Anyway, that's why Imam Hazrat Zahra said, in the Akhir Zaman, the most madloom tareen fard, the most madloom tareen individual will be my son, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Anyway, so he killed 70,000 just for the sake of killing one person. Hazrat Musa's mother is now pregnant. He had spies all over the place. All the midwives were his spies. Whose? Pharaoh's. See, midwifery is a very specific fun, yeah? Every person cannot deliver a child, because that could endanger the child or the mother. The midwives have a specific skill. And there were few midwives in Bani Israel. All of them were on the payroll of Pharaoh. So anybody, male child, deliver, you have to tell me. We spoke on the 15th of Shaban of the time of the Wiladat of the 12th Imam, yeah? And Janab Hakima Khatun is thinking that my nephew, Imam Askari al-Islam, said to me that today is the Wiladat of that Hujjat of God who's going to implement his promise upon the earth. But I'm not seeing any signs of pregnancy. At that time, people were thinking, oh, what is Sheikh talking about? What are all these traditions? Musa's mother, Riwayat tell us, Musa's mother showed no signs of pregnancy. When God wants to save his hujjat, inna Allah balaghu amri, he does what he wants. Allah does what he wants. He will change the laws of physical laws of nature to make sure his effort comes to fruition. There were no signs of pregnancy. It was as if she was a normal woman. Now, Hazrat Musa's mother became friendly with one midwife because she realized that I'm pregnant, but I'm not seeing the signs. This is the qudrat of God. A child is being born, but there's no signs on the belly bump. She becomes friends with this midwife. When she feels the labor pains coming, she calls him. She says, I need your help. I need you to help me. He says, what happens? A child is being born. So, but you didn't tell me. He says, look, this is something different. You're my friend, help me out. The child is born. She looks at the child. She says, I have to report this to Pharaoh. You're my friend? He says, yes. But then the Riwayat tell us, and this is not just me understanding, Ayatollah Makaram Shirazi mentions this. He's a Marja Taqlidi in Iran. He says, the Riwayat tell us that as soon as this lady who was on the payroll of Pharaoh, she sees Musa, Musa looks at her. At that point of time, the love of Musa encompasses her heart so much that she says, look, I am on payroll of Pharaoh, but I can't snitch about this child to Pharaoh. What happened? How did this love suddenly become so intense from a lady who's on the payroll of Pharaoh? I'm looking at 2-3 minutes, yeah? Allah has sent his prophets for promoting his religion, and he knew that they would have a lot of enemies because they would be They would be stamping on people's toes, and when you stamp on people's toes, they say ouch. When they say ouch, then they retaliate. There will be a lot of people retaliating on our prophets when they tell them your idols are not correct, your gods are not correct. So they will come to kill him. So he has put in certain defense mechanisms for his prophets. We don't have time to defend you. A whole majlis only for this. What are the defense mechanisms that Allah has given to his prophets to save them from the enemies? It's a whole discussion by itself. But again, we don't have time. 1 minute and we finish, or 1 or 2 minutes. One of the defense mechanisms is he puts love into the hearts of his enemies towards him. This Pharaoh's payroll spy, when she looks at Musa, Riwayat tell us she was so flooded with love that she could not get herself to snitch on this child to Pharaoh for the fear that now this child will be killed. Says who? Says me? No, I don't say anything. Quran says it in Surah Taha. He says, Musa, you remember my favors upon you. One of the favors Allah mentions is وَأَلْقَيْتُ مَحَبَّةً مِنِّي وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِنِّي. I put my love means specific, the love that belongs to me, I put it into your face that protected you from being killed. On 2 occasions, one at the time when you were born, and second time when that casket enters into the house of Pharaoh. Asiya and Pharaoh look at it. Pharaoh wants to kill. Asiya says, look at the child. How can this be a child that can upturn your hukumah? You're so powerful. He looks at the child. The love of child comes into the hearts of Pharaoh. وَأَلْقَيْتَ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِنِّي. My love I put into your face so that it overpowered the enemies and you survived. One of the defense mechanism that was there. So this is what happens. The inspiration came into the heart. How would she know what to do? She says, we told her, make a casket. And there's a long story as to what happened, where she went, what happened, how that person wanted to snitch. And again, he turned away. Something happened. Those are long stories which will just take us off. Those are of the Anbiya. But then eventually the casket was milled. At that point of time, how would she know that she has to make a casket? And how will a woman be able to tear a son, put it into the waters, into the raging waters of River Nile or the Yellow Sea or the Red Sea or whatever it could be, depending upon the riwayat. But he says, we put it into her heart, Do this. Put it into the water. Don't worry. We will take care. We will return it to you, and we will make him from the prophets. This is as far as the communication by God to the prophets by means of wahi, by means of dreams, and by means of ilham. Tomorrow we will see that when the revelations would be coming, what circumstances and what situations would develop with the Holy Prophet at the time when the revelation would come down, the situation, the circumstances, the secrets, the mysteries that the Masumin would tell us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم غفر الله لنا ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Assalamu alayka ya Ibn Rasulullah, Assalamu alayka ya Ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Ibn Sayyid al-Wasiyyin, Assalamu alayka ya Ibn Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidat al-Nisa al-Alameen, Assalamu ala al-Husayn wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa ala awlad al-Husayn.